Nearly a year after taking office, President Trump is celebrating his first major legislative victory. Congress passed a major tax overhaul. Republicans are promising tax cuts to help the middle class. However, Democrats are focusing on the tax cuts for corporations and the rich. Joining us now is financial analyst Rick Bloom to explain what this bill does for both the long and short term. Rick, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So the first question I guess a lot of people have is who are the real winners and who are the so-called losers?
I think that a lot of middle class people are winners under this because the standard deduction is going to double. So a lot of people won't be able to itemize their deductions. They'll actually have more deductions taking the standard deduction. So I think that's a good thing. It'll also make filing people's tax returns easier, which I always think is good.
You know, that kind of brings me to the next question here. I mean, how is this going to affect the individual tax filer?
Well, you know, today you got to keep all sorts of records. For the average person these days, they're not going to have to keep that many records because they're just going to be able to take the standard deduction. Standard deduction for a married couple is going up to $24,000, which is pretty good.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So who's going to pay for all of this?
Well,
where's the money going to come from?
Well, unfortunately, the deficit is going to continue to rise.
Right.
I think that's one of the problems that we all are going to pay for these tax cuts.
Something else, too, that we were talking about before we just came on here is the 529 plan, which really nobody has talked about, hasn't really got a lot of mentioning within this tax bill. What is that all about?
Well, the 529 plan has been used for people to save for child's and grandkids' college education. Under this bill, they can now use that money, $10,000 a year, to pay for high school or middle school, parochial schools. So it really gives parents some greater flexibility if they don't want to send their kid to public school, you know, for grade school.
So really, this is a plus for parents out there.
It could be very well. And also there's a new, you know, the tax credit is a little better for parents today.
What about for the elderly and Medicare? Will this affect them? And more importantly, probably Obamacare. Will there be any cuts to Obamacare?
Well, there will be cuts to Obamacare because the mandate's gone. Under this, people don't have to buy health care insurance. So that is gone. And this is probably the end of Obamacare because of that.
Right. And finally, a big question here. I'm sure a lot of folks are wondering because they're getting ready to file their 2017 taxes. Does this affect
No.
Not at all?
Not at all. Won't affect 2017 at all. 2018, yes. One piece of advice for those people that itemize their deductions, it's a good thing to accelerate your deductions into this year because next year you may not be able to deduct them. So accelerate deductions into this year if you itemize.
So really, overall, as you say, the jury's still out on who the winners are, who the losers are with this.
Yeah, it's hard to say because there's so many moving parts in it, but there are going to be a lot of winners. I actually think lower middle class people will do well in this because they won't have the same cost to prepare their tax returns.
Hey, Rick, I want to thank you so much for being on the show this evening.
Thanks
I
for
really
having me.
appreciate all that important information. You have a great night, okay?
You too.
All right.